Tonight, the new record, the highest COVID surge in America since the pandemic began. Over 36,000 new cases in just the last 24 hours. New highs in Florida, California, and Texas. The governor there pleading to residents, stay home. While New York, the one-time epicenter, now among the states imposing a quarantine on travelers from hotspots and a new warning for young people tonight. Also breaking, the 3 suspects in the Ahmaud Arbery shooting indicted late today by a grand jury. The charges they now face. The major victory for Michael Flynn, President Trump's first national security advisor, who pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI, what the judge in the case has now been ordered to do. President Trump welcoming the first foreign leader to the White House amid the pandemic, as a new poll shows Joe Biden out to a big lead. The big news for all of us wiping down our groceries, what the FDA said today about the risks of being infected through your food. The COVID mystery, why do some still experience symptoms for months on end? NASCAR's Bubba Wallace speaking out, the still unanswered questions about that news found in his garage stall. And a wish come true, the family flight inspiring America.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening. I'm Savannah Guthrie in for Lester, and tonight a deepening crisis as the coronavirus comes on strong across the South and the West. The map tells the tale. 13 states setting record highs for new cases in just the past week. And even more alarming, 7 states setting records for hospitalizations. The CDC today projected the death toll in this country could climb to 150,000 in less than a month. NBC's Joe Fryer leads us off.
Across the country, states are shattering coronavirus records with more than 36,000 cases today in the U.S., the highest one-day total yet. Today in Florida, a record 5,500 new cases, while California has seen a 29% jump in hospitalizations in just 2 weeks. And in Texas, the governor sounding the alarm, speaking with CBS affiliate KBTX.
Because the spread is so rampant right now, there's never a reason for you to have to leave your home unless you do need to go out.
In hard-hit Houston, hospital workers are frontline witnesses to the virus's deadly reach.
We learned that one of our patients who've been here with us for a while passed last night. That's really sad.
The spikes are so alarming, today states hit hard early in the pandemic. New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut announced they'll require out-of-state visitors to quarantine for 2 weeks if they travel from a hotspot, a list that for now includes 9 states.
We don't want to see the infection rate increase here after what we've gone through.
Arizona is on that list, a state where hospitalizations are climbing. ICU beds here are now 88% full.
That's my biggest concern right now, is that with the trend line that we see, we're going to really be going over our hospital capacity.
Will Humble is the former director of Arizona's Department of Health Services. He says the state should have had more restrictions in place as businesses reopened.
And unfortunately, it has normalized pre-pandemic behavior.
Last week, Arizona's governor allowed cities and counties to mandate masks, hoping to slow the spread.
Now that I'm required, I'm wearing it a lot more.
But frontline workers are worried the worst is ahead.
We don't have enough nurses for these patients.
As a virus hotspot surges in the Sun Belt. Joe Fryer, NBC News, Phoenix.
I'm Kerry Sanders. Tonight, officials sounding the alarm over the growing surge of coronavirus cases among the young. From Florida.
What we're seeing in Florida is really rapid transmission in that 18 to 34 age group.
To Michigan, where at least 34 cases are all linked to crowds at this bar. Dr. Anthony Fauci today with this warning.
If you look at the demography of the people who are getting infected, most of them are really quite young, 20s, early 30s, the kinds of people that you see go out, feel pent up, go out to a bar, go out to a crowd, and don't wear a mask.
Dara Sweat recently went out with 14 friends for a birthday party with no masks. Afterwards, the entire group tested positive. She now has a message for others.
As exciting as it is to have the bars and the nightclubs open again, maybe take it slow. Don't be in such a rush to go out to the bars so quickly. This virus is not gone.
For the vast majority of young people, coronavirus is not deadly. The danger is that they spread it to the elderly and most vulnerable. But there are tragic exceptions. Tuesday, Florida high school student Carson Davis died of coronavirus complications. She was just 17. But still, many on Clearwater Beach tonight are not concerned.
Just be careful about it.
Are you concerned about coronavirus, really?
Not anymore. I'm really not.
But officials here in Clearwater Beach say they are concerned. Anyone going into a business like a beach store is now required to wear a mask. That new rule went into effect just hours ago. Savannah?
Carrie, thank you. And now to the breaking news out of Georgia. The 3 men accused in the deadly shooting of Ahmaud Arbery now officially indicted by a grand jury. NBC's Blaine Alexander now with the details and reaction from Ahmaud Arbery's mother.
It took less than 10 minutes for a Georgia grand jury to indict the 3 men charged with murder of Ahmaud Arbery, whose final moments were captured on camera.
This is another positive step, another great step for finding justice for Ahmaud.
Attorneys for all 3 have cautioned against the rush to judgment, but for Arbery's mother, it was news she had long awaited.
I said in the very beginning that God hears my prayers. He heard my cries, and I knew eventually he would work it out.
Arbery's February death compelled Georgia lawmakers to take this historic step.
This is a defining moment for Georgia.
Yesterday, passing a hate crimes bill after years of failed attempts.
I'm happy because the bill finally passed, but also sad at the same time that Ahmaud had to lose his life for this type of bill to be passed.
Georgia had been one of just 4 states without a hate crime law on the books.
Do you believe that this would have made a difference in what happened to Ahmaud?
I think this message should have been sent a long time ago that you cannot target people based on race. This law was already in place, then Ahmaud would still be here.
Tomorrow, Arbery's mother will meet with the mother of Breonna Taylor, joining the push for the officers involved in her death to face charges. One of them, Brett Hankison, fired this week. In a scathing termination letter, the chief writes, "You displayed an extreme indifference to the value of human life when you wantonly and blindly fired 10 rounds into the apartment of Breonna Taylor. I find your conduct a shock to the conscience. Your actions have brought discredit upon yourself and the department."
Brett Hankison fired 10 shots. However, there were over 32 shots fired into the home. So, there's still officers available, officers that were present that are out there that need to be charged and fired as well.
Hankison's attorney says he fired in response to gunfire directed at the officers, adding the facts are not yet in. Hankison is appealing his termination. Blaine Alexander, NBC News, Atlanta.
A big legal victory tonight for Michael Flynn, President Trump's former national security advisor. A federal appeals court ruled the charges against him must be dismissed. So is the case over? NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams has the story.
Michael Flynn's long legal saga could soon be over because of an order from a panel of the Washington, D.C. appeals court. By a 2-1 vote, a ruling written by Trump appointee Naomi Rao, the court said decisions about whether to prosecute are the Justice Department's alone and cannot be second-guessed by a judge unless there's evidence the government intends to trick the defendant by dropping charges and refiling them. So the court said Judge Emmett Sullivan must grant the government's motion to dismiss the charges against Flynn.
I'm very happy about General Flynn. He was treated horribly.
Flynn himself talked briefly with Rush Limbaugh.
We are so happy with the decision, not only for our family, but for our country.
He was one of the first people to be prosecuted by Robert Mueller's special counsel team and twice pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his conversations with Russia's ambassador to the U.S. But last month, the Justice Department moved to dismiss the case. Attorney General William Barr concluded that the FBI had no legitimate reason to question Flynn in the first place. Despite today's ruling, Flynn is not completely in the clear.
The case may be over. It looks that way, but the full Court of Appeals may decide to take a second look.
Also today, House Democrats questioned the handling of the prosecution of Roger Stone, a former Trump campaign aide. Career prosecutors resigned from the case after Barr directed them to seek a more lenient sentence. One of those lawyers said a supervisor told him it was the result of political pressure.
The Department of Justice treated Roger Stone differently from everyone else, and I was told
that the department cut Roger Stone a break because of his relationship to the president.
A spokesman for Barr says he thought the original sentence recommendation was too harsh and noted that the judge's sentence was more in line with his thinking of what was appropriate. Barr agreed today to appear before the House Judiciary Committee in late July to answer questions about whether he has exerted undue political influence. Savannah?
Pete, thank you very much. President Trump met with another world leader for the first time in months today, trying to move beyond the COVID crisis. And Vice President Joe Biden raising new questions about the president's leadership. Here's NBC's Jeff Bennett.
A White House welcome tonight for the president of Poland. President Trump holding his first face-to-face meeting with the world leader since the pandemic prompted global lockdowns.
Well, I think it's a great honor. And frankly, Poland's a country we have a tremendous relationship with. And I have a very good personal relationship with the president.
The White House hopeful that a return to a regular schedule will help signal the country's readiness to reopen, even as the coronavirus crisis ravages much of the nation. Coming just as new polling has President Trump trailing his Democratic rival, Joe Biden. A New York Times poll showing Biden leading Trump nationally by 14 percentage points, and with an advantage among women and non-white voters, while also making inroads with some traditionally Republican-leaning groups. A separate poll showing Biden up by 8 points in the all-important battleground state of Wisconsin. Former President Barack Obama warning Democrats not to get too confident about Biden's polling lead.
We can't be complacent or smug or sense that somehow it's so obvious that this president hasn't done a good job. Because, look, he won once.
Obama on Tuesday night in his first appearance on the 2020 virtual campaign trail alongside his former VP.
Do you want your kids to grow up to have the same value set that Donald Trump has?
Both President Trump and Joe Biden set to visit key battleground states tomorrow. The president heading to Wisconsin, Biden traveling to Pennsylvania with a focus on health care. Savannah?
Jeff, thank you. In 60 seconds, what doctors have learned about COVID-19, how to treat it, who's getting it, and the dangers ahead. And what about those patients with lingering symptoms who just can't seem to get better? We're back now with a reality check on COVID-19. Will the new surge be as deadly as what happened in New York 2 months ago? NBC's Tom Costello now on what doctors have learned, and the news tonight on the risk of being infected from your food.
From the new front lines of the pandemic.
Half of them are intubated on ventilators. One of them required CPR for the first 3 hours of our shift.
The kind of horror stories we heard from New York this spring as the death rate skyrocketed. But experts say there has been real progress in fighting the pandemic. In ICUs, doctors are now delaying putting patients on ventilators, instead treating them with 100% oxygen and on their stomachs to allow better blood and O2 flow. They're using blood thinners to avoid blood clots and strokes. They now have the drug remdesivir to treat the sickest patients. And researchers just reported that steroids are also saving lives.
We are doing a better job of preserving life, but there's still a lot of people who haven't been infected. This is a virus that's probably only infected between 5 to 7% of the population right now. So it has a long way to go.
The good news, the FDA today said there's no evidence people can contract COVID from food or food packaging. It's most often transmitted between people in close contact. But interestingly, in cities like Minneapolis and Philadelphia, which saw big protests recently, no sign of a surge in cases. Possibly because protesters were outside in warmer, humid temperatures, many wearing masks. Researchers are seeing a surge in cities where people have tried to escape the heat by congregating without masks inside with air conditioning and poor ventilation. If cities and states don't limit large gatherings, experts warn America's death toll could soar later this year.
We don't have to hit 200,000 this fall. We don't have to hit 300,000 by the winter. Those are all up to us. But if we don't take it seriously and if we don't act aggressively, unfortunately, I do worry that those are the kinds of numbers we're going to be seeing by the end of this calendar year.
President Trump's former FDA commissioner with a stark warning.
There's certainly a possibility that we face a second wave in the fall that could be bigger than the first wave.
And the first wave, with 120,000 dead, isn't even over yet. Tom Costello, NBC News, Washington.
We know that COVID-19 can be a life-threatening illness, or it can be a mild case without symptoms at all. But there are also patients caught in the middle with mysterious symptoms for weeks on end. NBC's Kate Snow tonight on how they are helping each other.
It's been kind of this never-ending battle.
For Kate Porter, March, April, and May were a coronavirus blur. In the beginning, she had chills, stomach issues, sore throat. Then came shortness of breath, a rapid heart rate, chest pain, and a recurring spiking fever. It's been 100 days.
It kind of plays mind games with you.
Were you almost feeling like I'm all alone and I must be the only one having these symptoms?
Yeah, I definitely felt alone. I wondered if I was the only person going through it for that long.
Until she went online to crowdsource what she was feeling and found dozens of strangers with the same symptoms lingering for months.
Sometimes you just need that validation, even if you don't have the answers.
A digital marketing professional north of Boston, Kate helped build a Facebook group and website for long-haul patients like herself.
I was kind of looking for my symptom soulmate when I went on there.
In New York, Brandon Layden's COVID symptoms were flu-like for about a month, but then he suddenly got a really sore throat, followed by chest pain. 700 miles away in Kentucky, Hannah Lockman posted her symptoms progressed the same way, 10 days ahead of him. On May 18th, Hannah posted from the ER, "I have a blood clot in my lungs."
My heart rate was out of control. My blood pressure was high. It was very terrifying.
That's when Brandon insisted he be checked with a CAT scan.
I just knew in my heart that was it, and sure enough, that's what it was.
That's what it was.
It was a blood clot in my lungs, correct.
Brandon, do you think it could have saved your life?
If I had gone another couple of weeks without getting the right treatment, I don't know what would have happened, and I don't want to find out.
It's an overwhelming feeling to know that I changed somebody's life.
Misinformation is always a risk, but some doctors see the value in patient-to-patient communities.
How much are you as a doctor learning from these groups?
I feel a little bit more educated in what patients are doing, what's working, what's not working, and what symptoms they're having.
For Kate Porter, the emotional support has meant everything.
We've developed these connections that, weirdly enough, I think will last a lifetime.
A silver lining for patients still struggling with the unknown. Kate Snow, NBC News, New York.
And coming up, NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace speaking out what he says about that disturbing discovery and the FBI's findings. NASCAR star Bubba Wallace is speaking out tonight after the FBI concluded no crime was committed when a noose was found in his garage stall. But as NBC's Sam Brock reports now, there are still a lot of unanswered questions.
The special agents combing the garage stalls at Talladega are gone, but for driver Bubba Wallace,
I was relieved, just like many others, to know that it wasn't targeted towards me.
The relief of an FBI investigation finding no hate crime still comes with concern about what was found in his garage. This morning, Wallace spoke with today's Craig Melvin.
The photo evidence that I've seen and that I have in my possession of what was in our garage is exactly a garage pool. It is. That is a noose.
NASCAR declined to release the photos shared with Wallace, but is continuing its own investigation.
The evidence that we had, it was clear that we needed to look into this.
FBI video evidence revealing the rope was in the garage at least as early as October 2019, well before Wallace's team arrived and months before his call for a ban on the Confederate flag. This YouTube video posted in December appears to show that same garage stall with a pull rope hanging from it in the shape of a noose. It's not known if this is the same video seen by the FBI. But NASCAR confirms it checked all the stalls at Talladega, and one, Bubba Wallace's, had a pull rope configured into a noose.
The entire garage area has rallied around Bubba Wallace.
As some key questions remain unanswered, one conclusion is ironclad.
But no, that was a sign of what NASCAR is. It's family, unity, solidarity.
The sport has championed a change that goes well beyond the racetrack. Sam Brock, NBC News.
And coming up, a boy and his journey of survival you won't want to miss. Finally, tonight, it was a Flight One family will never forget, and neither will their fellow passengers. NBC's Kristen Dahlgren now with tonight's Inspiring America.
Last winter, before the pandemic, pilot Ryan Moore had a very special pre-flight announcement, introducing passengers to a little boy named Hawk.
And a little over a year ago, he was diagnosed with tumor cancer, and he fought it,
Make-A-Wish and Alaska Airlines were flying his family to Hawaii, giving them the VIP treatment. But there was more.
We also flew down Captain Dan Driggs from Anchorage, which happens to be Hawkins' uncle.
A family connection. And Moore knew just how special that was.
In a pilot's career, there's very few times you can fly with a family member.
Because he was also flying family.
This is a big honor for me today as your first officer. Not only do I get to fly with my brother-in-law, Dan, for the first time, I also get to fly my family on my son's Make-A-Wish trip to Hawaii.
Hawk is his son.
Hawk's definitely my hero. This guy's pretty tough.
That's your dad. A wish come true for the whole family.
Thank you, and enjoy the flight.
Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News.
And that is Nightly News for Wednesday evening. I'm Savannah Guthrie. I'll see you tomorrow morning on Today. Have a great evening.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.